As we set out through the deserts of Arabia and Syria, we witnessed at first hand the cruelty that is often occasioned by the onset of a disaster. Gangs of armed militia staked out the exit routes and began looting the caravans that were fleeing the famine. It was rumoured that there were as many as 20 different factions operating within a 30-mile radius. And making a deal with one particular faction didn't necessarily give you immunity from the others. For example, if you had secured permission to travel across the terrain of a particular faction, you would often be intercepted by another gang who would inform you that the boundaries of the region had been changed, and you were now liable to paying them a levy. This would be substantiated by a map that they would simply draw in the sand, and if by chance you were unable to meet their ludicrous demands, they would accuse you of spying and ransom your entire caravan. A story which had emerged from within the ranks of a particular faction, made up exclusively of former child hostages, told of a father who had returned to pay the ransom on his son after many years. The leader asked the father if he was aware of the additional costs that had been accrued for keeping his adult son alive. He then calculated the cost of the food, rent and clothing and added it to the ransom. The father, who did not recognize that the leader was his own son, handed over all the money he had saved. "Please, let me see my son, so that I can at least tell his mother that he is still alive." The leader turned his back on his father and ordered his men to escort him out of the region, where he hung himself to avoid returning home to his wife empty-handed. When the news of the suicide reached the son, he ordered his men not to cut down his father's body, but to leave it hanging as a reminder to the men of the shattering consequences of being poor. So, when our men set off that night to negotiate terms with this particular faction, a deafening silence descended on our camp.